groovy.
Hey everybody, Jim here. Welcome back. Today I'm giving some more import recommendations, and we're going to be taking a look at 5 Japan exclusive Super Famicom games. So let's get started with this one. It's pretty cool, by Sunsoft, Dodo Dante. And with a title like that, you can pretty much guess that this is going to be a dodgeball game, and it's a pretty good one at that. If you've played Super Dodgeball on the NES, or maybe the sequel on the Super Famicom, or even the Neo Geo version, this plays more or less just like that. You put together your team of players, and then you just try to knock out all the players on the other team. You wear down their health by hitting them repeatedly with a dodgeball. You have really cool looking super shots that you can perform. This game actually features story mode, which is pretty cool. I believe this is actually based on some kind of manga or anime. It has some really good graphics, pretty good sound design as well, and the gameplay is pretty smooth and it's really fun. Again, like I said, if you liked Dodgeball on the NES or any of the other games in that Dodgeball series, or some other Dodgeball games, because I know there are a handful out there. There are a couple of like all-girl Dodgeball games for the PS1, but if you like a Dodgeball style video game, then you'll like Dodo Dante. It is pretty good. It's also very affordable. You can find loose carts for I think $5 or less on eBay, and complete copies are like $15. So it is a very affordable game, one I'd recommend picking up if you like this style of game. Dodo Dante, very cool game indeed. Highly recommend you pick it up if you like Super Dodgeball. Next up, a really good platformer by Banpresto. This is Go Ackman. This game, I think, on a system that has a whole bunch of 2D platformers for it, I think this one stands out in part because of the art style. It's pretty obvious right away that this is based on an Akira Toriyama original work. I believe Go Ackman is originally a manga, and there might have been a short run of an anime as well. I'm not 100% sure. So when you see it, it's immediately recognizable. It's very similar to Dragon Ball or Sandland, something like that. So very cool in the art design department. Graphics just overall are really good. It's a very colorful, kind of detailed game, very large sprites. I really love the look of all the characters, the bosses, the enemies, Ackman himself. It all looks really good. The soundtrack is also really good. Banpresto usually made games with really decent visuals and sound design, like the little chibi Gundam games they made. Those always looked really good. Also, most importantly, this game plays really well. It's a really solid platformer, really fun, very cheap game right now. You can find loose carts for I think $15 or less, and complete copies I think aren't any more than 30. There are also a couple of sequels, and they're just as good, if not better. They actually add a little more in terms of gameplay, like different stages, different gameplay styles get mixed in. They're really good too. They do get more expensive. I don't think they get any higher than maybe like between $30 and $40 for a loose cart, and then more for a complete. But either way, this whole series of games is really good. Go Ackman, highly recommended. Not so expensive, even boxed, and a loose cart is even cheaper, so definitely one to go for. Next up, a really cool game and one of my favorite series of anime ever since I was a little kid. This is Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension. And this, I would say, is probably the best of the 16-bit Dragon Ball Z games, including the ones, or the one on the Mega Drive. This one's pretty good. I'd play this before I'd play the Super Butoden games, even though I like those too. This one, I love the visual style. First of all, it's very like darkly shaded. It has a different look from the other 16-bit DBZ games. Also, the sound design is really good, and gameplay-wise, I feel like it plays a bit smoother than the Super Butoden games. It doesn't go split screen like those do. It's more focused on the up close and personal combat, but you can still do lots of energy blasts and things like that. Your health, you don't have a health bar so much. You have a number that goes down when you're attacked, but it also goes down when you use energy blasts, and you can charge it back up. So it can be kind of like a real back and forth. Matches can last quite a while if you're good at charging your energy level back up after performing attacks or after taking some damage. You can also fly up in the air. You can transition from one area of a stage to the next. And flying around, the controls change up a little bit, and it gets a little slower, but it's still fun. You can zip around and beat the crap out of each other and shoot each other with energy blasts. Very fun stuff. So again, yeah, really great visuals, sound design, gameplay is fun, and all of the Dragon Ball Z games have pretty much gone way down in price recently, so this isn't a terribly expensive game to pick up either. Dragon Ball Z Hyperdimension, probably the best of the Dragon Ball Z games on the Super Famicom. I would recommend picking that one up. Next up, another really good fighting game based on a series of anime that's really near and dear to my heart. This is Yu Hakusho 2. And this is the Super Famicom Yu Hakusho game you're going to want to play if you like 2D fighters, because there are actually 4 games in this series on the Super Famicom. The first and third ones are kind of odd strategy fighting games in a way, and then the fourth one, Yu Hakusho Final, is also a fighting game, but I don't think it plays quite as well as this one. This one, I'm not going to say it's as good as playing like Street Fighter 2 Turbo or something like that. It's not, but it is still a very respectable, I would say, 2D fighter. It's pretty fun. It controls pretty well. It is a Namco game. It has some really excellent graphics, really big character sprites, cool backgrounds. There's a story mode to play through where you can accumulate more characters and then pick between each one between stages, so you get the central characters of Yusuke and Kuwabara, Hiei and Kurama and Genkai, and you go from the very beginning of the series through the Dark Tournament, and it's pretty cool. It, like I said, not a perfect fighting game by any means, but definitely a very playable fighting game. Definitely something that would be very cool to pick up if you're a fan of this series. And again, another game that isn't terribly expensive. You can grab a loose cart for definitely less than 20 bucks. Yu Hakusho 2, very good fighting game, well worth picking up. Check it out. And last but not least, a very good game, and a game based on a series of films that I like a lot. I know a lot of people do. This is Super Back to the Future 2. And oh boy, do I like this game. Again, on a system that has a ton of 2D platformers, I think this is one that stands out. The gameplay is really fun, really smooth, good, responsive controls. You get to play as Marty, zipping around on the hoverboard, taking out enemies, traveling back and forth in time. Every boss is Biff Tannen, which is like really cool. I love the character designs in this, really awesome, kind of like cartoonized chibi versions of all the characters from the film, and just overall a really great looking game. All of the stages, all of the enemies, it all looks really nice. The soundtrack is awesome. The 16-bit version of the Back to the Future theme is great, and remixes of it play all throughout the game. Just really excellent soundtrack, excellent graphics, really great gameplay, a lot of fun. And if you're a fan of the series, this is one that's well worth picking up. Unfortunately, this is one that is climbing in price as of late. Loose carts can be up to like 80 bucks and more for complete copies actually, but definitely this is one of my personal favorite platformers for the Super Famicom. It's a real shame that it didn't get a release outside of Japan. Super Back to the Future 2, amazing game. I like it a lot. Highly recommend picking it up if you're into imports. And that's it. 5 Japan exclusive Super Famicom games that I think are definitely well worth importing and playing. Hey, do you have any favorite imports of your own? What are some you'd like to get your hands on? I'd like to know. And until next time, thanks for watching everybody. Take care. Goodbye.